Kathie, I believe you've told us previously that you started out in the studios in a typing pool, and then you started to be given notes, and you realized you were really in your element. So having been in the industry for some time, how does the film and television industry really work? You've seen it from sort of this level of being a secretary in the typing pool, sort of being an observer, maybe in hearing things that people didn't even know you were observing, and then you from working your way up to a much higher level. How does it work?
Well, if you want to do it as a basis of comparison, I think a lot of it has to do with the technology. First of all, a lot of things that were done on a typewriter are no longer, it's now on a computer. So technology is different. I do think that there are more people interested in becoming involved within the studios and the networks. I do see that now one of the things I've really noticed, there used to be 10 to 12 studios, and there are now something like six studios, something like that. There's, remember we used to have 3 basic networks, CBS, ABC, and NBC. And look how many cable stations and how many smaller networks, network for television that we have. We have streaming. We have more areas where a person can get projects placed. So that is great because there's more opportunities, which I think everyone needs, you know. So I think that that's a good thing. And that's also a huge difference from what it was when I first started off.
How does it really work in terms of if you were to sit down and have lunch with someone that's come from another state or another country and they have a vision of it, how would you sort of give them this maybe 15-minute briefing or less on this is how it works? It's either sort of an open system, it's a closed system, this is how the process works of getting projects approved?
Okay, let's take it just as, you know, just in sort of very brief kind of terms. If it were about a script, which I think, you know, most of your fans are interested in screenwriting. In terms of screenwriting, it's different now because you can give your scripts to other people in terms of like Amazon has a little bit more open policy. You don't necessarily have to have an agent. I've heard of people who have just sent things to Amazon and it's gotten read. There are more opportunities in terms of there are all kinds of conferences now and pitch fests where you can make these contacts and network. They didn't have that 15, 20 years ago. There were just very few opportunities to be able to have a writer meet with agents and producers and executives. Now there's more of those opportunities.
So interesting. So then, but most people to present their writing would need an agent. It would have to be through somebody else.
Well, except for web series, I mean, which is another area that I think we'll get into in a little while. But web series, you could put that on Vimeo, you could put it on YouTube. You don't really need to have an agent. In fact, most people don't have agents that are web series creators.
Right. So then, in terms of getting an agent, are there certain agents that aren't able to pitch to studios on your behalf, or it's a free system in that way? I'm just trying to see from, let's suppose, a total newbie's perspective coming here and thinking that they could just basically knock on the door and see the person at the front desk and hand it over. That's not really how it works.
Well, you know, to get an agent, you have to have material. Having one script's not going to do it. No. You need to have at least, I would say, 2 or 3 spec scripts. And if you're breaking into television, I would suggest trying to get into some of the, there's fellowships and competitions for the major CBS, NBC, and ABC. They all have screenwriting fellowship programs, which you can, you know, I'll give you a list of them, and you can, if your readers or your fans would like to, you know, take a look at them, I have a list of them for them.
Okay.
And they have wonderful fellowship programs where you can study with some of their showrunners, and you can, they'll introduce you to some of the showrunners. They'll have them come in, the showrunners come in once a week and talk with these people, you know, who are there on the fellowship program, and give them hints and ideas about what they're looking for, how a television series actually works, how they put things together with the casting and the plots, and how do you continue a story over a whole, not just a season, but a series of years. You know, they now look for hopefully at least a 5-year season, you know, 5-year commitment for a television series. So they learn all of those things directly from these people who are on the front lines. So if you can get into one of those fellowship programs, that's great. And so I'll have all those websites for the fellowship programs for you to give to your viewers. But in addition, when it comes to agents, it's still very hard to get an agent. You can get a manager. You know how I told you how things seem to be shrinking in terms of like the networks, the studios? Same thing with the major agencies. A lot of the agencies started merging about 10 years ago. And so they don't have as many of the larger agencies like they used to. Agencies now have to be very, they're very cost conscious. And so a lot of the agents, when the agencies merged, they lost some of the agents lost their jobs. So they became managers. They started using the term managers. And they also decided that they wanted to produce. So there are a lot of managers out there now. So that's another area that you might want to look into if you're a new writer. But I'd be careful about it, because it just depends on whether they are looking just for the material or whether they really want to be able to help you out as a client. Some of them are just looking just for the material. They may just want to do a quick buy of it and have someone else rewrite it or whatever. You know, so you have to kind of be careful about it, because managers are not, they are not regulated, whereas agencies are regulated. Agencies, you can't get more than 10% off of the sale of a client's script or material.
And what would be a way to see if someone was actually a legit registered agent? What website would help them?
You can go to the Writers Guild, and they will tell you. They have a list of the ones who are legit. And they will also tell you, the good thing too is if you do meet up with a manager or a producer or production company, if you start to think that there might be something that's not quite right, call the Writers Guild and they'll tell you if people have complained about that. Oh. I have had, I remember when I worked at Disney, someone called me and gave me their name, and they said, I'm so-and-so, I wrote such and such script which was submitted to you 6 months ago, I have not heard anything. And I looked it up on my computer and I couldn't find it. And I said, well, what's your agent's name? And they told me, and it didn't sound familiar at all. And so I said, you know, can you do me a favor? Can you tell me the name of your script and your name? And I said, I'll take all the information down and I will check and see what's going on. I called the Writers Guild, and they had 4 outstanding complaints about this person who was posing as an agent. Oh. He said, in fact, he said he was an agent/manager, and he was not registered with them. So a lot of people pay money to these people, and you're not supposed to pay money. This gal who submitted her script, he was asking for $25 for each submission he would make to a studio. He said, okay, I submitted it to 4 studios. That'll be $100.
Oh, wow. So due diligence.
Exactly.
Can you even go on the website yourself? You know, like the LA County Bar or the State Bar. You can just find out.
You can do it that way too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it may take a little bit longer because they have to, they get emails all the time. Whereas sometimes if you just make a call, you might catch the right person. They might be able to quickly look it up in their database. Okay. Because I don't know if they have their whole database on the website. I don't think they do. And for something like complaints, it might be something better to talk to somebody who's in person, who is there and can look it up for you.
And would you recommend, even if you have a good feeling about somebody, just make sure that everything's...
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. Okay, great. Good to know.
The other thing too is, one of the best suggestions I can give to new writers is join a writers group. That you can do it online now. You don't have to all just live in the same city or anything. You can do it online. A lot of people will trade via email or whatever, and just look at each other's scripts and give feedback and be a support system for one another. But also for some of the people who have actually submitted material, or if somebody has actually gotten interest from a production company, they know whether something works or not. And it's just like the same thing with screenplay competitions. There's so many of them out there now. And a lot of them, all they do is they just get the entry money, and they really don't give you any kind of value. So what I do every year is I have several of my clients that I do business with, and I always ask them, I'll send out a little questionnaire, you know, what are some of the competitions that you feel really work? Which are the ones that you think are the best for new writers to enter? And, you know, I put out, you know, a little list of that, and I'll give that to you too.
Oh, great. And
it really gives you a good idea of the ones that are the most reliable, and it really is worth your time.
And that's how another writer would really know? It's through word of mouth?
I think word of mouth is the best thing, because if you know that if there's somebody that you know who actually has gone through a competition, or actually has used an agent, or even in things like a consultant, you know, like, gosh, I'm looking for somebody professional to read my script, you know, who can you guys suggest? Who have you guys used? Perfect way to do it, you know, because word of mouth is everything to me, you know, and that's how it works actually in the industry. When you talk about agents, you know, that's how a lot of people get agents, is because they know someone who knows the agent, and it goes by word of mouth. That's one of the best ways if you want to get an agent. But most of us don't know somebody. I mean, when I started out in the business, I knew no one in the industry, and so, you know, I was not able to get a job that way. So the same thing for a lot of the writers. But I have clients who eventually have gotten agents, and it's because they've gone to Pitch Fest, or because they placed in a screenplay competition. So the best thing is, when you enter these competitions, make sure that they have reputable people who are the final judges. Are these people agents, studio execs, network people, showrunners, writers? You know, who are these people that are doing the final judging? And if they have final judges who are professionals in the industry, they're going to be looking for clients. They're going to be looking for material. And it's not unusual. Sometimes whoever wins the screenplay competition, it may not necessarily mean that that project will get made, but there's always a possibility that maybe they will ask him, what else do you have? Or, gee, have you thought about turning your script instead of a movie, how about into a TV series? I've had a couple of clients who actually have gotten agents just because they placed like 4th or 5th, but there are agents who read the material and saw that there is something about that material and that writer that had a voice, a different kind of voice that they hadn't seen.
So going back to the judges, maybe just a quick Google search of, is this judge working currently in the industry? And that's a good test to see.
The other thing too is sometimes they don't know until later on whether or not who's going to exactly be judging, who the exact people are. So what you can always do is send a little email to them and just say, can you tell me who are some of the judges you've had in the past? It gives you an idea of the caliber of judges.